All right, welcome back to another episode of the London is Blue podcast. As always, host Brandon, Joe, my host Nick, and Dan. And as you can tell by my voice, we are doing the Tottenham match review, coming at you with optimism and excitement. Because why wouldn't I? I have no other reason than results to be in this mood.
Optimism and excitement, huh?
Little O&E.
Okay, I don't think people say that, but sure, yeah.
We could start it. It could be our little thing. Hey, on Twitter, little O&E. If you know, you know. I am bringing it.
Catch on the same way as 3-word match reviews or Nick
Dan of the match or anything else I've created.
Yeah. The second one I went to was Nick. But okay, that's fine. Whatever.
I am a legend, so it's fine.
Yeah, he is.
Keep her moving. We're fine.
We're doing the thing as we're obligated to do.
We're here so we don't get fined, people.
Not contractually, but to you, the lovely listeners out there who are tuning in the dozens, we gotta talk about it. We gotta give a little update of where it's at. We had a good week last week with pods. We had a lot of different voices. So if you missed it, Matt Law was on. He gave context around kind of the ownership group and what they're thinking. Tweeds did a solo monologue for an hour on kind of his views on it, on the Tinkerman.
To be fair, he did not plan to. We were celebrating the fact that, this is an amazing opportunity outside of the podcast sphere and has to focus his time on that. So we are thankful for the time that he got to be a Tinkerman. And now, so there's now one Tinkerman again, but there'll be Tinkermen soon. So stay tuned.
Just based on the plural of the name, we got to get another person in to fill that seat. So
can't rebrand again. That would be the third time we've rebranded the show.
Yeah, thanks, Gary Hayes. I know you're not listening, so I'll make fun of you. But look, the last one of last week was the famous CFC back again with the interview about Poundland, which was fucking awesome. Like a really, really cool interview with the people who made the documentary about Ken Bates and Matthew Harding and football in the 90s and all that sort of stuff and how Chelsea was at the center of it. So if you haven't listened to that one yet and you're longing for some good vibes, for the love of God, go listen to them because they actually bring it.
Yeah, head to our profile in the app and download the refreshed version. It'll be much better for you. So anyways, we'll talk about obviously the lack of progress causing an immense amount of pressure for Graham Potter, a list of suggestions to address, resolve what's happening on and off the pitch, to see if we might be able to shed some light. I think we'll just kind of give our general perspectives on state of the state, what we think is happening and compared to other things. What else, we think might happen or should happen just based on the history of this amazing club and how we best protect it for the future. So per usual, we kick off with the 3-word match review based on, the people and the temp check. But apparently, Dan, it was too hot to include.
Well, look, there were likely diamonds in the rough. And for those of you who did not get recognized because the surrounding atmosphere was extremely toxic, I apologize to you. But look, out of the 700 plus 800 close to a time of recording, I just couldn't there wasn't a strong enough hazmat suit to walk through that zone today. So I decided just to pause on it this time. We'll get back to you on the 3-word match review in the next match.
That's insane. That's back to back 700 plus.
Allow me to sum it up for you. We're not happy. That's your 3 words right there.
That was the community's 3 words. Yes. We will sum them all together.
Yep.
Like the multiple Scott Langs of the multiverse and Quantum
okay, Dan. There you go. Got it in. Yeah, I know you were chomping at the bit. You were like, we gotta tie this multiverse together, and you did.
Look, some people might be more excited to hear my take on that movie than what's going on with Chelsea right now.
I would. I'm in.
All right. Let's see. Dan, your 3-word match review?
Questions, more questions.
Nick?
6 since November. That's Premier League goals for you at home.
Yeah. I said bring the Yanks. So see if we can switch it up a little bit, see what happens. It is time to give a huge shout out to Austin, Carter, Ryan. Join us on Patreon. We will see you in Discord. Appreciate you all. Fjord, even on the Apple Podcast train, we are back with another 5-star. It's been a little bit. Again, Apple Podcast, Spotify, it does a huge amount of help for us. That's why we give you free shout outs on the pod.
Hell of a fucking name, Fjord. Like
Svenrik.
I really want that to be his or her real name. I assume it's a he, but yeah, there I go. Assuming again. Yeah, that's a hell of a name. Well done. Also, announcement. We're launching a Ted Lasso podcast in the next, I don't know, call it handful of days. We're working on the release stuff right now.
Hours away.
But please note that this is a lot of fun. We spent a lot of time this weekend and last weekend getting it all polished up. And so if you are a Ted Lasso fan, you're like, hey, I want to hear more of these idiots espouse over something football related. We got you covered. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, you'll see it. We'll definitely get it out there, but very excited for that. Anything else that we can talk about, Dan, before we get into this? Anything?
Just a reminder that we're going to be in London in a handful of days. I know you said bring the Yanks, but I mean, just a reminder, we'll be over. Hopefully we are the missing ingredient, and that's just been our fault that Chelsea's form has dipped to where it is, but we'll be there starting Friday. We'll be there all the way through the Dortmund match, and hopefully we see a couple of wins. We'll at least see the Chelsea women win, because that's all they seem to know how to do at this point.
Knock on wood, Dan. Knock on goddamn wood. Come on. Don't jinx that too.
At least that is what we're going to see. Come on. But hey, we're also doing a live show at Classic Football Shirts London on the Friday evening. There is an Eventbrite. We'll put the link in the podcast descriptions. You also can find it on our Twitter profile. But we'd love to see you on the Friday evening at 7:15 p.m. It is a £5 ticket, but that is the price of your first beverage. So it's essentially free. It's just making sure with the limited space that they have that we are maximizing attendance. And I would love to see your friendly, shining faces out there if you're in town.
And I talked to the guy, Lex, who runs their shop. They're bringing down some special Chelsea merch from their HQ in Manchester for this one. So
it also might be a discount if you attend as well.
Perhaps there is. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Yeah.
Anything else, Dan? Do you want to talk about meal prep strategies or anything else?
Tell me about this Chipotle plan that Dan's on, because I'm really excited.
I'm not doing the Chipotle plan, but I'm very interested in what Brandon gave me information on earlier about the catering hack. That is not what we're doing, but sounds awesome. Right. Good idea.
All right. Well, match review time. It was Tottenham this past Sunday, the 26th of February. It was the Premier League matchup at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. A load of bullshit. Tottenham 2, Chelsea 0. Goals coming from unlikable Oliver Skip. Record scorer Harry Kane. Do you know that Harry Maguire has lifted another trophy before Harry Kane? And Harry Kane scored like 260 some goals.
Wow, you caught me right there. Oh, man.
I need something to hold on to, and that's what I get.
Which one is the better Harry when you think about
it? For the Bants, it's definitely Maguire. Anyways, we're going to run it over to the Chelsea 5th Stand app for highlights and reviews. Hope they got something, because you know what? We need it. Appreciate them letting us use the content. Download it if you haven't. It is full of breaking information. So, yeah, thanks to Chelsea, and we'll be right back. Okay, lineup time, Dan. Run us through it. How do we line up? What led us to the sword?
Well, it was Kepa Arrizabalaga between the sticks, Reece James, Thiago Silva for a little bit, Koulibaly and Ben Chilwell as your backline, Loftus-Cheek and Fernandes as your midfielders, with Hakim Ziyech, João Felix, and Raheem Sterling, as well as Kai Havertz. It didn't really end up like this 4-2-3-1. It was very interesting in how it actually played out. You did see appearances from Zakaria as well as Mudryk, Mason Mount, and then Aubameyang. That's right, coming in for 7 courtesy minutes at the tail end of the match.
Yeah, the pass maps and the average player positions shook out quite differently. You know, Nick, with the lineup, I was talking to Matt Law about this, you know, because he obviously covers Spurs and Chelsea quite regularly. And he didn't think Potter was going to do it, and he didn't, but he wanted him to match up, right? Man for man, go back 3, see if they could just, go man to man, be a little bit more aggressive. Unfortunately, that's not what happened. He did leverage all 5 substitutions, which is potentially a good thing. A lot of them came late in the game, though. And so it all kind of just didn't work again. What is this? Another 6 changes after the last match with a week to prepare. He says some of it's fitness related, but it's like, I think a reporter asked him rightly so, like, do you know your best 11? And as a fan, it's really hard to know.
Yeah, it's tough to build consistency at the very least, even if you're going to stick with this 4-2-3-1 that hasn't scored us any goals. One goal in February to be precise. So congrats to Joao Felix for winning our goal of the month for February. You did it. But yeah, it's uninspired. It's weird. It doesn't necessarily give you a ton of confidence in the guys that we just bought. If all of them are on the bench, bar Enzo Fernandez and Joao Felix. I mean, that is it's a weird pill to swallow there. And you look at how we've been playing. I get that, sticking to your guns as a manager is how you become good at what you do. But if you just look at the stats and you look at the end outputs, like it's just not working, right? And there are moments, there are periods of every match that we played over the last month and a half that we've looked okay, right? I thought we started this match really well. We're zipping the ball around, but yeah, it's just not doing it. And so, I agree with Matt. I would have tried to match up because they ended up with Emerson Royale in particular, but even with Ben Davies, who is a slow ass left center back, exposing our flanks because we were trying to get ahead and get forward. And that's just not good enough. To lose out to Emerson Royale and Ben Davies is a very, very, very poor day out.
Yeah, even Christian Romero back there. Some of the top line stats: Chelsea with 59% possession away. We had 10 shots, only 2 on target. Spurs had 8 shots, 3 on target. So their conversion was 2 goals from 3 shots on target. Pretty good, unfortunately. 4 corner kicks apiece. We had 10 fouls apiece, 3 cautions for us, 2 for them. This game, look, if you don't have big chances, you can't miss them, right? And that's what we did. We had no big chances, none missed. Spurs did have a big chance as well for them.
Eat your heart out, Sam. You don't get to add to your stat book this week. So
yeah. When I initially looked at the crosses and we were 0 for 16, so 0%. Spurs were 2 for 13 and only 15%. So I don't really know how effective that strategy was in general. But
how hard it is to go over.
Yeah.
I mean, even a blind squirrel finds a nut occasionally. I mean,
that's what they say. So anyways, it was pretty scrappy from there. We had 10 dribbles there, 11. We had 19 tackles there, 27, 23 clearances there, 22. It just all kind of like dribbles on a little bit as we get through it. So I'll just cut it there. But the one random stat before we move on for Matt Opta-Joe was 6. Chelsea have scored 6 goals across their last 12 games in the Premier League. No side has scored fewer in the competition since the start of November. Chore, Nick, I'm pretty sure you put it in the group chat with the friends. Athletic put it in essentially a graphic, and it just said it was us and Everton who have scored the least amount of goals since this time.
One of those teams is in a relegation scrap. The other one's heading that way. I mean,
one of them just had their manager sacked. The other one just had their manager backed.
Yep.
Again, different circumstances, different situations, but those data points are linear. So we're going to take our ad break. When we get back, we're going to go ahead and jump right into the pressure on Potter, because it is the elephant in the room that we cannot ignore anymore. Thank you to the sponsors, and we'll be right back. I feel like I've had to do that a few times in the last few pods. The big exhale coming out of the ad break, because I know it's ahead of me, Dan. You wrote it. I'm reading it. The listeners,
sure,
waiting with bated breath. Pressure for Potter.
bated breath. I think they're maybe enjoying a morning coffee. They're on their commute. They're hopefully using this as a little bit of talk therapy for what's been going on in the world of Chelsea. But I kind of wanted to underline that, like, first off, this is not just about one match versus Spurs, because one individual match in isolation is never the issue and typically does not have underlying, it might have underlying patterns that you can point to, but, I think we can't deny the attitude and the atmosphere surrounding the football result at the moment. We texted a couple of people who were at the game, and they talked about it as not, away supporters not even necessarily being angry anymore, but just basically accepting that, like, this is the way we play right now. This is the standard. And that apathy is not something that we have been accustomed to seeing in the almost, in the 9+ years that we've been doing this together, and the many years potentially beyond that, from like a fandom support. But like, this is just, it's a really weird place to be, Nick, in terms of talking about this now, looking at the run of results and everything piling up, and seeing people that we know who have been season ticket holders or have been generational supporters longer than we've ever been. Our football heritage compares nothing to their like multi-generational history, and like the way that atmosphere and that attitude is changing right now is something I've not seen before.
Yeah, I mean, because we've been doing this so long, we started off this new era by preaching patience. Like, we knew the team was coming off an awful summer. The team started slow, bunches and bunches of injuries, the most we've ever seen, a mid-season World Cup, new signings betting in, a bunch of management structure changes. Like, there are 1,000 different excuses as to why Chelsea are underperforming right now. And, it's not just about one person, but it feels to me about the most toxic that we've encountered. And I would say, like, the other two moments that are up for consideration in the toxicity race are 15-16 season, which was, a disaster from start to finish, and was guided over the line by a steady hand and Goose Hiddink, who got us back up to 10th, where we currently are in the table, after we were 16th. You have to remember that we were really flirting with relegation that season. And then the other time is when Sarri was here. That's since we've been doing the pod. I mean, those are the two most toxic places. I think people forgave Lampard. I think people forgave Tuchel, and so on and so forth. But this feels like the most to me. It feels like we're playing the worst of those three instances. And I think, obviously the notes came out this weekend that Graham Potter and his family are receiving death threats, and people are targeting his fucking kids. And like, if you're listening to the show, you're probably not one of these people, but just in case you've sent in some anonymous threats, stop listening to this fucking show. I mean, that is a insane thing to do. I feel terrible for him because he's going through a tough time, and now he has that on top of it. But it's a results-based business, man. Like, this is, the results have been very, very, very bad. And, as patient as, Boley and co have been with the Dodgers, this is a whole different kettle of fish over here. And, I think the most dangerous place, Brandon, that you can be is apathy. That you just don't care, that you're like, you're kind of resigned to the fact that this is not going to go well. I mean, it's kind of where I'm at right now. Like, I expected us to get pummeled today, and, maybe we didn't get pummeled, but we certainly didn't play well.
No, we didn't get pummeled, thankfully. Credit to Spurs, still finding a way to not really be dynamic or exciting. Obviously the results There's no doubt about it. Here's what I would say. I think that Bowley is ripping as much up as he can and trying to rebuild. The problem is everything is in flux. When you talk to Matt Law about stuff, I mean, he's essentially replaced every department head there minus the academy. Right. You haven't probably really touched the win, but everything behind the scenes, Naz said it too, is different. That's hard. And now you also put new football managers and directors in, right? Vivell, Winstanley, different people. And now they have to get the new pieces, learn, let them onboard and ramp up. Like everyone has to ramp up with a new job and then start playing consistently. The players in it are in the most unstable footballing environment ever. Like Nick said, whether it's the World Cup, the Queen's passing, the injuries, it is a very unstable environment. And I will tell you, athletes, the one thing they want is stability, repeatability, predictability. They want to know, even if the physio is not the best physio, if it's who they know and what they're used to, that's what they want. They've had interim after interim, new people coming in. Here's what I say. You can't love Bully for splashing $600 million in the transfer window and then hate him for giving Potter time. Bully's the one who is ripped everything up out of the ground and is replanting new roots. Whether or not it's going to work out, we don't know. But this is the way he's deciding to go for it. He is trying to compress a 2 to 3 year rebuild into 12 to 18 months. I don't know if it's going to work. It doesn't seem like he's going to blame Potter for what he's doing. This is our situation. It's a 10-year contract. He's here for the long haul. He's got to figure it out sooner than later. But I would say everything going on around is why players are inconsistent and why Potter hasn't been able to get a footing. I'm not saying it's good enough. I don't like it. I don't enjoy watching it. I'm just thinking that's the full picture that is creating all this chaos around the club right now.
I think it's frustrating too, because, when flashback to this time last year, right? It's been 1 year since the war in Ukraine has started, and basically 1 year since Chelsea Football Club was put under an insane microscope and was forced to be sold, right?
Assets frozen, everything. Have fans in the stadium. I mean, it was. We're
almost a month away from like when that really heated up, right? Because it was a couple of buffer weeks between the start of the war and when the club was under serious consideration from bidders. Bowley had said many things in interviews, both with the club and before he owned the club, that winning is the best way to improve the club. That if you win, everything else takes care of itself. That using winning as the metric is all we really care about. And that just hasn't happened, Dan. That's been the frustrating part. But, I look at everything going on and, I think Chelsea fans are, because there's so much change, you have to focus on something, right? Because you can't boil the ocean if you're a Chelsea fan. And I think a lot of fans have honed in on Graham Potter as the one thing that they're going to put some hyper focus on. Some people have, focused on the player performances. Some people have focused on the women's team. Some people have focused elsewhere. But like, this is now the area of focus, and it's not going well.
Yeah, and so just to kind of rewind from the 27th of December through now, 9 matches played in the Premier League. That is 2 wins, 4 draws, 3 losses, 6 goals on an expected 12.3, 6 goals allowed on an expected 9.7, and a ridiculously lower number of points than we should have obtained from a list of teams that included Nottingham Forest, Fulham twice, West Ham, and Southampton.
This was the easy part of our schedule.
You didn't need to be going into the back end of the season with a Liverpool match still on the cards, a Newcastle match still on the cards, several matches that are going to test you way more than some of the teams on this set. And I think that the challenge now, Brandon, is there's twofold. There's managing the game on the pitch to produce the best end outcome, and also using the media apparatus that you have in post-match, pre-match, sideline, before the game, after the game, to put out something that at least puts people at ease. Because I think the other thing people are pointing to are the answers or the structure of the answers that Graham Potter is putting out to the questions that he is receiving. Now, that you could debate whether or not the questions are good or bad. We have some friends in those rooms, so like we think that some of those questions are good. We also agree that sometimes some of the questions are not great. But there are questions that need to be asked. I think it actually is even more pointed questions like, hey, could you explain in 2 to 3 sentences what you want your type of football to look like at Chelsea? That if any of our friends could ask, I would love, because I think that is a question that could use answering. But there's just a lot of answers that came out from the post-match press conference that left people scratching their heads.
Yeah. A big thing is the elite mentality, right? We've had some of the best managers to ever come through world football at Chelsea, and we are so lucky. Very different, right? You think of the Mourinho, even the Ancelotti, obviously Conte. There's so many managers throughout the years. Even Lampard got it, understood it for obvious reasons. I think that's some of the frustration here that sometimes we're missing. When he says on the pressure, when he's asked about the pressure, he said, there's always that question. You can't stop that question. And while results are like they are, you accept it. I haven't done enough at this club to have too much good faith. I accept that. Said my job isn't to worry too much about that. I understand the question, but I have to keep focusing on the team and helping the players. They are good lads who want to win, but at the moment we're suffering, and that is my responsibility. End quote. Probably been a lot of suffering, right? It's been a lot of, lack of improvement just in general. But he's got a lot of excuses or reasons. I guess we can call them reasons, Nick, of why. Medical injuries, things, suspensions, yada, yada. Today, he didn't play any of our January signings in the starting 11, which, again, was kind of interesting.
Enzo and Felix were the two. But yeah. I hear what you're saying. I mean, it to me, when we signed him, Boley made the statement, I believe it was Boley, or it might have been Bedad, but either way, that this is going to be a project, right? That this is going to be a long-term project, that we're going to have to get comfortable with each other. And, that is so different than the chop and change, performance review driven nature of the Abramovich era, that it's been a shock to the system. Like in the Abramovich era, I don't think there's any doubt that Potter would have been sacked by now with the string of results.
The second top 4 was gone. He was gone.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, that's just what the precedent had been set at, right? And so it's been a major shock to the system that he's been backed. And I think the issue that a lot of fans are having is that if you remember all the way back to September, which feels like 5.5 years ago, we were unbeaten in 9 to start his reign, right? We went from bottom of our Champions League group to the top of our Champions League group. I think, won our first 4 Premier League matches, and we were firing on all cylinders. And it felt like the football was good. And then Reece James got hurt. Then Ben Chilwell got hurt. Then, so on and so on and so on, right? And the football fell off. And I think the lack of some sort of linear progress, even in performances, Dan, has probably been the thing that people are pointing to go, I don't know what the hell we're doing here. Like, I don't, the Dortmund match was good football. We praised that football. That was, we definitely should have had more out of that game than we got. And then the last 2 performances have been bad, with even more time to rest and plan.
Again, this is back to the through a match review. Like, it's just questions upon questions. It's every time seemingly there might be an answer, like a player is coming back healthy, you would imagine we get closer to the perfect starting 11. And yet, we aren't scoring goals, or you're looking to try to find repeatable tactical patterns. And again, we're not professional football managers. And so it'd be fair to say, well, you don't understand this in response. And that would be a fair criticism. I think one thing that was probably the most interesting of the quotes when Potter went back to talking about job security was we were talking before the game about watching the Arsenal all for nothing 2 years into Mikel Arteta's reign. He is close to getting the sack. People want him out. It was seen as a disaster, but things have changed a bit. And then he also pointed to, if you look at Jurgen Klopp's situation, they haven't got all the results, and all of a sudden people want him out. That is the nature of football. I haven't done enough this club to have too much good faith. I also accept that. I don't know if those are the people that you want to be pointing towards as a marker for where you're going to take things or how you're going to work through situations. I think
I see where he's going with that, though, right? Because in both of their first seasons, they both finished eighth, right? Eighth in the table. Chelsea are not too far off of eighth in the table, but I don't think anyone would consider eighth in the table some sort of victory this season, right? Like, he's entered into a team that 2 years ago won the Champions League. Liverpool hadn't won fuck all in 10 years when Jurgen Klopp got there. So they were able to, I think, rationalize, the journey a lot easier than we're doing. And so I think that was a bit of a mistake, like you said, but I know why he said it, because that is, he's trying to prove that there is a pattern out there, that if you give time, even if that first year is tough, progress can happen. Your work can get better, right? The issue is that when you don't score any goals, you can't win games, and you can't even show minor progress in the moment. Like, we have to win games to get to 8. That's a different scenario than what Klopp and Arteta were doing at this point, So I think he has to be, I agree, Dan. I think he has to be careful, but that's why he did it.
It's the same thing. Whatever manager at United, I think it was Moyes said, like, City were away, they weren't even close comparable. You just have to know. We don't want to ever hear about Arsenal or Tottenham being successful ever, right? You could have sprinkled in Liverpool, like, I don't know, maybe United, like maybe, but Liverpool and Tottenham, they're obvious booby traps. You can't step in our London rival shithole. Like, you just gotta know. So, like I said, at least he followed it up with Jurgen Klopp, I guess, right? To try to like quickly pivot. But that's the one thing, unfortunately, when you're not in a great spot, the fans will use that against you. So anyways, we're going to take our last ad break. When we're back, maybe some suggestions, some ideas we have to the situation. So thank the sponsors, and we'll be right back. All right. Well, this might surprise you, but this section is short because our idea list is also short. Dan is pounding on the door. He's tired of them trotting out Potter every single time. Dan wants a new voice. You give him some answers.
Well, this is actually goes back to, if you think about this is what people were asking for Tuchel at certain points in tough moments for the club previously. Like, there have been bad spells at Chelsea before. There'll be good spells at Chelsea again. There will be bad spells at Chelsea again. And it is generally the individual put in front being the manager of the club, and that is fine and well in good times and good tidings, and is okay through little bits of rough patches. I do think whether it's a one-off interview, whether it's a published piece through the media sources that the club trusts, that getting some type of statement on the record or conversation out there into the world from a director level individual. We have multiple footballing directors at this point at Chelsea. Very unprecedented times for us to have so many people in our sporting hierarchy. It would go a long way, I think, to helping at least address the concern. Hey, we know things aren't necessarily where we want them to be right now. Here's what we're doing to work towards that. Like phase one was this, like we had to refresh the squad. Like we're going through that right now. This is the path we're trying to head towards. Like the vision has been very general to this point, Nick. Like to go out to win again, to be the best club, to learn about the multiple other clubs that Chelsea are going to be going after. We've heard about the Strasbourg news this past week. And like, at this point, people are like, well, wait a minute, don't go worry about Strasbourg right now. Go fix the footballing results at Chelsea. Like the message is not in control right now. And in the void of the message being controlled by someone at Chelsea, the whole narrative is up to someone else to define. And I actually think the best thing that could happen is if Graham got taken a little bit out of the firing line, or like if you're saying Graham Potter's your guy and you're riding it out to the end of the season and you're invested for next season and you're moving forward with this, like give the guy some help.
Yeah. I mean, I think there are many different ways to begin to win a messaging battle, right? You can obviously seed stories to journalists. You can have a game plan that you execute in a press conference. You can, run different events and all sorts of stuff. And, the messaging is critical, right? Because they could go through the Chelsea Supporters Trust. They could go through any of the fan groups, the shadow board, whatever, kind of structure exists there to kind of assuage some of the fears that are going on. I mean, the fact that we're closer to relegation than we are the top four is very, very, very uncomfortable, right? For a club of this pedigree with the amount of investment that's been put into it, it's given people real anxiety that, this is not going to go that well. And I think, Brandon, your point about the compression in trying to reform everything after the Abramovich era is correct. But, I think, there's a lot of different ways to kind of talk to supporters and communicate your vision without giving away trade secrets, right? Which I think is the fine balance. And yeah, I just don't think people want to hear from Potter right now. And I'm sure he'd be fine with a couple of weeks off of doing press conferences. Like, like he tried to be funny on Monday about the crisis meetings. That didn't really, work. He's not a comedian by trade. He's been spiky, a little bit spiky, various shades of spiky. That hasn't really worked. Like, and so, yeah, maybe we trot someone else out there, but I don't know if that's the only answer either.
Yeah, look, I mean, maybe I don't think Bully wants to come out and be like, yeah, we're just breaking everything and fixing it the way we want. We're doing everything now, right? Like, because then they're kind of saying like this season's a wash. And I don't think they think it's a wash, but they're definitely doing heavy reconstruction every single piece of the club that they can. I think they did their 100-day assessment. They came up with a really long list, and they are just attacking anything and everything that they can right now. So I think this really goes part of it to me. I think, Dan, you asked the question, do we need to stop playing players who won't be here next season? I think the problem is, and Phil said this too, right? So you're in good company. Yeah. The problem is you're one injury away from needing that person, or do you just completely go like hard line and say, okay, who's in the dev squad? Like you are 100% frozen out, whether it's an Aubameyang, it's a Ziyech, I don't know. I don't really want to throw too many more names, and I'm not saying they're going to be gone. I just know those are kind of the common ones. Do you just say at all costs, we are going to stay this squad and below, and that's it? It's tough. because it seems like you're paying all these guys. Can you at least keep them engaged in case you do need them, you got them. It's the worst situation to be in. You got to think about market value. When I talked to Matt, he was like, yeah, Win Stanley and Vivelde are so busy working on outs right now. I mean, it's a game of fine margins no matter which way you go. It sucks.
If Chelsea do not advance, there are 15 matches left in the season for this current crop of players. Some who have not played substantial minutes yet for Chelsea because they were acquired very late in January. They've been here less than a month or just over a month at this point in time. There are people who are healthy enough to put in 14 to 15. Hopefully it's 17. Hopefully it's 19, because that would mean we're advancing to later rounds of the Champions League, and that would be some total great why not us energy. However, the realistic side of the conversation says that it's probably 15. It's probably 15 more matches left for the remainder of the season. And so what are you going to learn about playing someone who was a missed form filing away from being on loan to another side in the end of January into February, who would likely, be someone to leave, versus potentially playing someone who's going to be here now for 6 years, 7 years, and giving them the opportunity. And look, nothing is perfect right now. So I'm also open to the fact that my idea might be absolutely dog shit. That's a reality too. There could also be no good ideas, but I think the premise of Phil's comment and kind of where I think I'm going to, Nick, is that if you're saying that this is long term, playing individual players who are not going to be here, maybe outside of Joao Felix, because you just need the help in attack, and he has shown at least to be someone who can get towards goal and has scored one of those last 6 goals, would likely be the only person out of that individual group where I'd say yes, you have to play him. Everyone else, I'd be let's figure out, of the new signings, of the Lewis Halls of the world, who are we getting opportunity for to try to push forward and build some identity for this team that we can really roll into next season a lot stronger than we are now.
I joked with Brandon a couple of weeks ago, getting 40 points was going to be a challenge.
I scoffed. Just for full transparency.
2 more losses later.
Fuck you. I thought about that during this pod. I checked the table again, asshole. I was like, oh God, remember when Nick said that? Oh, I literally checked the table thinking about that.
One of the old rare instances where I had a point. But yeah, what I think you have to do right now is figure out what are the 4 wins that get you into safety. Because if you keep fucking around and lose to Southampton, lose to Everton, lose to West Ham, whatever the case is, your bottom, the bottom half of the table teams that you need to beat to stay up, you need to find those 4 wins, and you need to actually get them first and foremost. That needs to happen. I don't give a shit about any of the rest of the optics right now. You need to find people who can get you those wins, and I think that Graham, this is on Graham. He is responsible for setting up the team and the structure that he has put out over, since November, where we have scored 6 goals in 12 matches. That's 1.5 goal per match, which is no goals per match, basically. He has to find an answer. He has to set up the team differently. I don't care if it's a back 5. I don't care if it's 2 center backs and 9 attackers. It doesn't really matter to me. And I realize that would be 12, but whatever. New formation. Maybe we cheat our way through. But is it
just a pay fine? Because if all we have to do is pay a fine to get the 12th man out there, I'd say go for it.
Yeah.
If we were any other team, who would be our manager right now?
Who?
Big Sam.
Yeah.
Hey, you need 9 points? That's my thing. I got you 9 points.
Love getting 9 points, baby. Come on. That's what Deitch is doing.
And he's like, you don't even need to give me a long contract. Literally through the summer, I'm good.
What I love about the Deitch thing, he's like, I think I know where this is going. I don't think I'm going to be the long-term solution here, but they have an identity, and again, find 4 wins. That's what you have to do. And after that, it's really finding a formation that the team can operate within. And yeah, N'Golo Kante will be a valuable asset to have in some sort of stretch run. And I'm sure, the team will improve once he gets in there. But I also thought the team was going to improve when Enzo came through and when Mujic came through and when, we had a healthy center back pairings and when we had healthy fullbacks, and it just hasn't clicked, man. And so I think there just needs to be work done on that.
So just to give people the rundown. So Chelsea have left to play Leeds, which we'll be there for, which hopefully we are, again, the good luck talisman. We get the W there. So 3 points.
3 points. To worry about. Come on.
Everton, Villa, Liverpool, Wolves, Brighton, United, Brentford, Arsenal, Bournemouth, Forest, City, and Newcastle.
I'm like 50-50.
You don't really like that, do you? It's not great.
I hate Brighton. I wish we didn't have to play them again. And then we'll get to it, but it's like you have like an 8-team pile up at the bottom for relegation. So even if you're playing a shit team, they're going to be fighting for their lives. So they might as well be a top 4 team. Just our luck. Well, obviously we didn't do a day of the match because that's the rule. It was a light weekend of games because they had the Carabao Cup final today. Manchester United won. Friday, Fulham Wolves drew 1-1. And then Villa beat Everton 2-0. Leeds beat Southampton 1-0. Arsenal beat Leicester 1-0. West Ham smashed Forest 4-0.
Where did that come from?
Yeah, I don't know. And I think it was like 0-0 at half or like something. Like they just turned it on. Even Declan scored. City 4, Bournemouth 1, and then Liverpool Palace 0-0. Obviously, our result was on Sunday. So just damp from the league this weekend, Arsenal squeaking by again. You're just hoping that they slip. Thankfully, City's continue to put on the pressure because Arsenal's top of the table, 57 points. They think that it might only need 85, 87 points to win the league this year, which again would be super low.
We are legitimately 14 points behind Tottenham at this point in the season, and we are 26 points behind Arsenal at this point in the season. I mean, in your wildest dreams or nightmares, more accurately, like that is fucking wild. And I think to the point of Arsenal, which has been the most painful stretch that I can remember going through as an opposition fan. And City better fucking figure out how to get this thing done because my God, I couldn't bear it. Those self-righteous assholes, but they have a different winning mentality right now. They won. Like they didn't play well on Saturday. I watched it. They were all over the map. That they were kind of squeaking by. They got a scrappy little goal in, and that was that. And then they closed up shop. It's eerily familiar of another team that I used to remember who used to do similar things. And that's crazy, man. Like we need to find that sort of belief again. We don't have it right now.
You have 14 games remaining in the Premier League. You have a maximum, if you have won every single game outright, of 73 points. It would be the maximum amount of points that you could obtain between now and the end of the season. I think if we are above 50.
Where are you getting 20 additional points from right here? Name them. You name the games. Where are we getting 20 points?
And if you're above 50, it's crazy, right? Like
we have 31 points right now.
It's a long road. Hey, the only thing that Potter said that I fully agree with is the only thing he's focused on is Leeds right now. Every game is a must win from here on out. Act like it. Take it serious. The table as it stands, Arsenal top 57, City in second on 55, United in third on 49, and Tottenham in fourth on 45. Newcastle, who have the fewest losses this season with 2, are in fifth with 41 points. Look at a rebuild. They haven't splashed the cash. they've been smart with their signings, picked up Eddie Howe.
Yeah, they've done some splashing, but not the big cannonball that we expected.
Right. For sure. I would say they've been smart with the money, right? And they've done a good job of spending in that sense. And then at the bottom, you've got Everton in 18th on 21 points, Bournemouth in 19th on 21 points, and Southampton 20th on 18 points, right? And we're on 31 points. You've got, thankfully, a little buffer between us and the teams below us, but not much. You've got Leicester in 14th on 24, right? So there's 3 points between 18th and 14th. Like I said, you playing anyone that's 14th to 20th towards from here to the end of the season, they're going to play like a top 4 team because they're going to bite, scratch, pull hair, do whatever they can to stay up. And that is not good. So again, Mr. Super Optimism, Dan, I get it. It's going to be tough. Do I think that we have the players and the ability to do it? Hell yeah. But unfortunately, we haven't seen it in a long time. We've forgotten about it. We've lost the spark. The love isn't there. Something needs to happen to bring it back for everybody involved because it's just not enjoyable right now. And we're too far away from summer to ride this out, it feels like. All right.
It's on April.
Yep. That's what we've got for this one. I can't believe it's only the end of February. Like I'm just blown away. I know it's almost March, but like I am feeling like it should be April at this point and we're nowhere near it. So that's going to wrap us up. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got something out of it. Obviously this isn't a, detail by detail match review. There's no point in doing that right now. Things are different. So we'll be back this week. I'm talking with Phil, Chelsea Youth. I know we're going to be doing a pre-London pod. And then wheels up, baby.
Wheels up. Wild. It's already here. So for our London friends, we will see you soon. Absolutely. And to our American friends that are also going to be there and international fans, we will also see you. We are very excited. But anyways, that's going to wrap us up for tonight. Hope you enjoyed it. Let us know on social. As always, let's get in touch. Keep the conversation moving. If you want a safe space, come to our Discord at Patreon is how you get connected there. But anyways, and Chelsea fans, that's it. We're tired. We're done. Been a long day. So until next time, Chelsea fans, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high.